Hello and welcome to the Martial Arts Teaching Tactics Podcast. I'm Chris Bean, and I'm joined by Chris Kent. Hello, Mr. Kent.
Hello, sir.
What are we talking about today, sir?
Today we're talking about the ideal student and how we can create that ideal student.
Yeah, so in this episode, like you said, we're talking about the ideal student. What can we do as the instructors on the floor to help shape and mold our students into what we would perhaps consider to be the ideal student? I mean, that's our job. That's our duty on the floor to help to build and mold and shape our students. Whether they're young kids or even adults, they can still be molded and still have new qualities that they can gain and learn from your classes. Not just their physical moves, but what mental material, what other aspects of their training can you help to deliver to them and help to build them up as a person, as a human being. Master Kent, what type of qualities do you think an ideal student would possess?
I think if we were to boil it down into, let's say, 5 qualities, I think those qualities might include things like discipline, courage, honesty, respect, and however you can say wanting someone to be a hard worker, having a hard work ethic. So I think those are just some of the qualities that we'd want in our ideal student. And I think as some of the topics we talked about previously, it's up to everyone else to also sit down and decide what they think would be a top few qualities to have in their ideal student, and make a list of maybe all the qualities you want and then focus on a few of them. But again, sit down and think for yourself what you want your students to be and how you want them to behave and the qualities you want them to have, and then detail each and every single one that you want, and then focus on those top few as it is. So again, we talked about it with several things, but maybe it's a worthwhile exercise for everyone to sit down and decide for themselves what those qualities look like for their school or for their students or even for themselves.
Yeah, and maybe this is something that you would do in like a staff meeting, and so you, as the owner, as the manager, as the head instructor, whatever role you play in the bigger machine, you have your own ideal student. What does that look like to you? What is your staff trying to build? What is your staff striving to encourage those students to be? Right? Do you have any overlapping qualities? Are they way off board on those things? So that would be not only just for you, the listener to this, but your staff, right? In your staff meeting, perhaps pose that as a question. As you're on the floor, you are helping to shape and develop those students to be better versions of themselves, better than they were yesterday. What does that better version of them look like 4 years from now, 5 years from now? What would that ideal student look like? And have them list their qualities that their person would possess, and then talk about different ways that you can achieve those, and then hopefully you have some common ground that lots of your staff is coming up and talking about and has those same qualities that you would have as your ideal student as well.
Yeah, and I think once you have that list of qualities, the next step is to prioritize that list. What do you want as the first quality? Meaning, which one of those qualities is the most important to you? Then use this as a list. Use this list that you've prioritized as a guide to create your ideal students. Go through your program and install those qualities into your program, and set up ways for your students to develop those qualities and then gain them for themselves.
Yeah, as you're adding those qualities into your program, of course, you want to have progress checks along the way. So you have, those top 5 qualities, and you rank order those. This is most important, this is second most important, and so on. And maybe those most important they're only off by just a little bit, but this is the overarching, this is the most important, and so on. As you add those to your program, progress check it to see how your students are doing on those things, right? Check to make sure that those things that you implemented, however you decided to get hardworking students, check to see if that is working. Not just now a one-time check, but then As they get to green belt, I think green belt is the most common belt that we talk about here, but as they get to green belt, they have a progress check. Okay, how are you guys doing on this? And maybe that's something you observe from the students. Okay, I can check this. Yep, they did good. Or you know what, maybe we need to go back, not quite to the drawing board, but add some different things in to help to improve this quality. And then maybe they do it again at red belt or whatever the next handful of belts later. And so having those progress checks will help to ensure that the things that you are asking and striving for from your students is actually happening, right? You have an idea. Sometimes you have an idea. It sounds great on paper. Okay, great. Let's implement it. And then it is not at all how you expected or wanted it to go. So have a progress check to check in to see, are those things working the way that you hoped and wanted them to work?
Yeah, I think a key factor to the success of this program is letting the students know why you're doing what you're doing. Helping them to establish the ideal student mindset is an integral part of that program. So let them know, hey, I want you to develop these qualities, however many it may be you want to focus on, or hey, we're doing this specific thing to boast or to improve this quality, or doing this will make this quality better, and let them know why you're doing what you're doing. And this will help to get the students on board with the program and make sure everybody's on the same page working toward that goal of developing those qualities.
Now, I don't know if you can imagine, but try to imagine what your classes would look like. And all of your students are at the very least striving for or are that ideal student. Right? Can you imagine? That would be amazing. If you had a room, let's say you had 20 people in class, and all of them actually want to be there. What's the list? Let's see. They're all disciplined. They have immense courage. They're honest. They're respectful, and they're hardworking. Right? Those qualities. If you have a room full of those, if that's what your classes, if that's what those people are like in your class, oh my gosh. Think about the things you can accomplish, not just, in class, great class, you can do all kinds of cool extra, more stuff because they're ready to do more stuff. But on top of that, think about their life outside of the class. How were they functioning as a normal person outside of your class, right? Are they an adult? Are they a parent? Which one of those skills is going to have the most benefit to them outside of your class, right? Of course, yes, you're going to benefit from this. The instructors are going to benefit from this because classes are going to be easier to teach because the students are the ideal student. They show up when they're supposed to show up. They're respectful. They have courage. They're hardworking. Whatever those qualities are, your room is full of those people. Every one of them have in some way, shape, or form, or are working on those qualities. Classes would be so much easier, right? People would perhaps actually go home and practice those moves that you ask them or tell them or beg them to go home and practice. That alone would be amazing. On top of that, they show up, they're hardworking, right? All of those different things. That would be incredible for the classes. But again, how much more benefit would that person as a human being outside of your classroom achieve in their life? And think about this, if they're a young kid, that maybe they're 13 or something, if they can have those at 13 to 10, whatever years old, as they grow up and they're just going to be around and they're going to be a different version. Like they're going to be not even they can't, I don't know how to word this. Like when it comes time for that person to get a job and they are that person, they are your ideal student, they have all of those qualities that you built into your program, they've went to your classes, they are that ideal student. And they all go out to get a job. They're at the job interview and they show up, they do all the things they're supposed to do, they answer the questions the right way. Nobody else has a shot. Nobody else has a chance to go up against them in that type of field or that type of category. Jobs will be easy for them to get. They'll be able to grow fast in their jobs, being from low level to manager in no time or whatever it is. But those things that you are doing in your class will hugely benefit them, and not just inside your classroom, outside, around as a normal human functioning in an everyday life. because of those skills, because of those programs, or this program rather, that you are building into your bigger program.
So, how do we go about implementing this program?
Well, I think this can and probably should be like a multi-tiered or multi-pronged approach. So meaning you have lots of avenues that are trying to cover and work on these skills, these qualities of the student. Using mat chats. So at the end of the class, you sit down, you talk about these skills. Talk about, what does it mean to be hardworking? Maybe they've never heard of courage, or what does it actually mean to have courage. Talk about those things in your classes, and then perhaps we talked about checking in. Maybe you do that at one time or a couple times in the beginner's class, and as they move to the intermediate class, they get a courage talk again. But it's a little bit more focused. It's a little bit different, a little bit more the next time, and then they do it again in the advanced class. Again, it's more refined, and then they do it again, and so on. So they get those multiple instances that they're talking and hearing and getting a chance to absorb whatever that quality is. I used courage. But on top of that, if you have newsletters for your school, add a section into that newsletter about courage. So not only are your students getting it, and hopefully, your students are at least in some way, shape, or form getting and taking part of that newsletter, but the parents or whoever email or whoever picks up that paper and reads that is going to have that section on courage. And then you have the talk on courage in class. You have that courage on the other avenue of approach. If you have reading material or homework assignments or something like that, maybe you have them write an essay about what does courage mean to you? What does it mean to have courage? And then you give them an opportunity to perhaps show their courage by demonstrating some moves in the front of class, or maybe in the higher ranking ones, they get to demonstrate their courage by leading a warm-up in the class or teaching the class, because that involves public speaking, and apparently they say public speaking is like the number one fear. So courage, again, that's specific to courage, and I'm just using courage as an example. Of course, you'd have to make that specific to whatever you want. But again, so you have mat chats, you have newsletters, you have essays or homework assignments or different drills or skills that you have into your program that give them an opportunity to demonstrate or practice or use those different skills. Hardworking. That hardworking could be one where in class you just say, all right, listen, guys, today we're going to work on your work ethic. I want to see you guys working hard for the whole class. And we're going to have a tough class, so I need you guys to be real hard workers. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. Boom, and then you do it. And I pre-frame them. I let them know. Like we talked about pre-framing all the time. I pre-frame them. Hey, listen, this is what to expect. This is what I need to see from you guys. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Boom. Then you do those things. And then at the end, you talk about, hey, listen, you guys all worked super hard today. You guys showed me that you have an outstanding work ethic, and you are all hard workers. Good job. Right? So I pre-framed them, we did it, and then I after-framed them. We reframed it. What's the term for that?
Maybe review.
Reviewed it. We reviewed it. We talked about it after the fact. I told them good job. I gave them some encouragement for it. So as many different avenues of approach into your program that you can start to implement or work on or talk about these skills is going to be the best. Think about, for example, your low block or whatever, I'm using low block, whatever basic move that you guys have in your system. How many times do you think your students have to do that until they're moderately proficient at that move? It's more than one. 10. And it's not just, but it's more than one class. Maybe they do it 50 times in one class. Well, as a beginner, as a first day student, they're not going to have that super well by the time they come to their second class. Class number 3, maybe they're getting a little bit better. But all of those are small touches on that information or on that move. So as they go through more days, as they show up to more classes, they're getting more work on that basic move. And then by the time they get, however far into your program, they have that move and it looks really good. Well, because they showed up and they did it on this day and they did it on this day. and this day, and so on. So that's what we want to talk about, or that's how you want to try to build and work on these skills. You talk about it here. Okay, great. That's like one touch, one day. All right, great. Let's do it again here. Let's do it in this different way. Let's do it in this different way. Let's do it again at this level. Right? That's how you try to give this a roadmap for your classes, for your program. So you get this at white belt. Okay, great. At yellow belt, you get this one. And then at the next belt level, we work on the first one again. We work on the first one again. Now we work on the second one. Great. Okay, now we move into the next class. Okay, great. We go to this other one, and so on. Just kind of write out your belts, and then just plug and play those things, and try to have lots of overlap or lots of reiterations or summaries of those different skills, so that at the very least they're hearing them. And I think the next step, if you can go above and beyond, is give them an opportunity to demonstrate. Give them a practical application that they can use this hardworking, your work ethic for. How do you use your discipline? Give them an opportunity to show and use their discipline. What does discipline mean? How many different ways can you talk about discipline? Self-discipline. You can talk about, it's a whole wide field of all of those things. Doing it one time and like, okay, yep, I'm done. I did it. Nope, it's lots of touches on it. The more times you can talk about it or rehash it or review it or summarize it or give them an opportunity to demonstrate their respect or their courage or discipline or whatever it is, that is going to be the way to truly build into these skills, these life qualities into your program that you already have. Not saying change your move sets or anything. I'm just let this information flow through your curriculum. And then as such, as they grow through your program, they're going to be transforming themselves from who they were or what they were when they started to a whole different person by the time they make it through your program and make it to the higher ranking of your program because of this skill system that you're adding in.
And I think a big part of that too is, as much as we're pre-framing and practicing and reviewing, and like Mr. Bean said, all this stuff is already present in what you're doing, and most of the martial arts as it already is. I think reinforcing and even just saying those words over and over and over again helps them to focus and think about developing and gaining and mastering those type of character attributes or skills. And how many times did you, even just in your explanation, say hardworking or say courageous or say disciplined, whatever it was? The more you say that, the more it reinforces that idea in their head. Like, for example, if you're working with younger kids and you're working on a skill for the week, and your skill for the week is focus, no matter what you do, tie it back into focus. Say, we're going to work on this drill to practice focusing on hitting small targets. We're going to work on this drill to practice focusing on someone that's talking. We're going to practice focusing on whatever it is. Always draw it back or bring it back to that characteristic or that thing that you're working on. So the stuff is already, those attributes and those character traits that you want to help boast or help improve is already there, but just draw their attention to it. Make those connections so that when they're doing things, they're thinking about, I need to practice this form and do it multiple times because I'm a hard worker. I need to work on my work ethic, whatever it is. Just using the words more often is another step to helping them to really link what they're doing with why they're doing it, to develop those different attributes and skills to eventually work toward becoming that ideal student.
Yeah, and of course, understand that you're playing the long game for this. You can talk about these things one time each, and again, that's not going to make a change. It's not going to change overnight. This is something that you implement, and then you'll get to see and reap the rewards, and they will also reap the rewards for this a year into your program or 3 years into your program or however long it takes for that transformation to happen, but it's not going to happen overnight. Understand that this is the long game, right? This ideal student isn't going to, boop, okay, everybody's fixed now, everybody's better. Nope, that's not how that works, right? So you start now, and then eventually, depending on how you map it out, that's when the ideal students will start to kick in. And of course, as it's a slow change, it's not going to be you show up to work one day And then, wow, that was an awesome class. Everybody did all the stuff they were supposed to do, and that was nope, it's going to be slow, stair step into that ideal student. All right, eventually it will happen, but understand, again, it's the long game, and be willing to play the long game, not only for your benefit, but for the student's benefit. Not just for the inside the walls of your school, but what they gain and how they can implement that into their life outside of your school. So play the long game. Play the long game. Map it out, see how long it's going to take, and then expect it to take a little bit longer than that, because that's how stuff works. And be ready when that happens. Be ready and excited, not just for yourself that you helped this student along the path to becoming a better version of themselves, but be excited for what that'll do for them. Think about this program as you're building it like a pyramid, right? And as you start to implement these talks or these newsletters or however you're going to go about it, think about the biggest, widest, most overarching, broadest way that you can talk about courage. And then at the next level, okay, you start to narrow it in a little bit. And then at the next level, it gets narrow, and then all the way up to the top of the pyramid. Now, not only with that one quality, you have 5 or 10 or however many qualities you came up with. Have that so you have the one pyramid, each skill, each quality has its own pyramid, and then that all stacks on top or builds up the entire big pyramid, where at the bottom, everybody starts brand new day one student, and then at the top is the ideal student. That ideal student is built from all of the information you teach them, all the physical moves, but then again, all of the mental material, all of those qualities that you helped that student to gain and possess along the way. So they come in at the base of the pyramid and they work their way all the way up to the peak of the pyramid. That's when they're the ideal student. And of course, the training doesn't end there. You can always narrow that field of vision down, or perhaps when you get to the ideal students, then you broaden it out and you start another ideal, extra ideal, elite ideal student, or however you would want to word that, but would again be that same type of pyramid type mentality, mindset, building blocks. Structure, that's the word. Structure. Thank you, sir.
Be sure to add in, as you're doing this, some maintenance material as well. You want to do all you can to help your students stay sharp on these qualities. And once you've established this type of program, maybe do some reevaluation. Are there some more in-depth materials that you could add in? Ways to help them refine and continue to improve the qualities they've worked on. And then once they reach that pyramid, like Mr. Bean said, there's more to go on after that. So they don't just work on it once at a lower level and then never touch on it again. Go back and reinforce those things and talk about them and remind the students all the hard work they did to work on that quality or that trait, and how much work they need to continue to do as they continue to go. We've talked about maintenance before with their training. You don't just do it once and then you're good at it forever, like showering or going to the gym or brushing your teeth. You have to keep doing it to make sure those things stay fresh and stay clean and stay good the way you want them to be. So don't neglect the maintenance. Don't neglect going back and working on things, because there's always more that could be done, whether it's just to stay at the same level they were before, or to raise that level even farther.
Another side to this coin would be, instead of building this using the structure of a pyramid, you would maybe just do a road. And along this road, instead of necessarily going up like a pyramid, they get courage. Then maybe they get optimism, and they get work ethic, and they get whatever the other qualities are, teamwork and leadership. But instead of focusing on maybe 5 core beliefs or values or qualities, as opposed to focusing on a narrow selection of them, you give them a lot of qualities. And as they're getting these qualities, they're like Master Kent said, they're qualities that are already in the martial arts. You're just helping to present it to your students. And as opposed to building up a pyramid of 5 core beliefs, you give them lots of beliefs. You don't, unfortunately, with the road method, they don't get lots of retouches on those. It's tough to do maintenance on those because there's so many of them. So this would be kind of like, do you want the focus to be broad, where they have lots of different touches on lots of different areas of improvement, or do you want them to be core focused, where you have 5 specific qualities that they are super good at those 5? Neither necessarily is wrong. Maybe they both have some pros and cons. I would hope and strive to do the core beliefs, where there's 5 or so core beliefs, values, qualities. Those are the ones I want to build. Those are the ones I want my students to be more than proficient at. Not wrong to do the road method where you get this one and then this one and then this one and this one, and they're just not, I mean, maybe they're sort of linked together, but they're not really linked. With that, they get lots of different information. There's so many different of positive qualities that somebody can possess. There's a huge number of them. So you do a little bit about this one, a little bit about this one, and this one. You just give them all of them. And different people are going to take and chew on all of those different things. Maybe different people have different interpretations or different qualities that they like best, so they're going to work more on those. With the core belief system, that makes that a little bit tough if that person doesn't think they want that quality. That is, again, pros and cons to both. I believe and I like the select few core beliefs, and let's build those and make those the best we can. All of this to say, if you don't have some kind of value system, how are you developing your student that comes into your class, into your facility on day one, to be a changed person, a better version of themselves, that ideal student by the time they've been a year with you or 5 years with you? What do they gain from their time with you? Not just physically, but mentally. What do they gain outside of your school that they can use in their everyday life? How did you help to shape and build them as a person? I think that if you don't have something like that, I think I would challenge you to really sit down and think about some different ways that you can build this system into your program. For, of course, the benefit of the students, you will get some benefit as well. Again, if you have everybody there that's hardworking and they're respectful, their classes will be so easy to teach. Everybody will want to be there, and they will want to learn the information. They see value and benefit from it, and they are that ideal student. They will be getting let's say you get 5% of that benefit because your classes are a little bit easier. Great, good. They get the other 95 because their life will be easier. They will be in a better place because of those qualities that you help them to grow and shape and mold.
Yes, sir. As with anything, don't expect to get this right on your first try. Keep your ear to the ground, adjust, make the necessary changes, and keep working.
Until next time. Oh, I should probably talk about where they can find us, huh? You can find us on social media. We are on all of them. You can search MA Teaching Tactics. MA is for martial art, by the way. MA Teaching Tactics. And audio podcast. We're on all of those as well. You might already even be listening on an audio podcast. You can search Martial Art Teaching Tactics. We're also on YouTube. I don't know if you count that as a podcast place or a social media place, but there's videos of all of these episodes up there as well. Just in case you want to see what we look like. I know it's interesting listening to podcasts, and you have in your head the way that these people sound or look like, and then you see them and you're like, well, that's not actually what I thought that person was going to look like. So anyways, you can reach out to us on all of those social medias, on Facebook, on YouTube, all of those different places. We'll be more than happy to respond back if you have a question or have ideas for future episodes or anything like that. Let us know what you think. Okay, you can give us reviews, I think, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I think those all have review star type systems, so you can help us by giving us a good review if you like us. If not, I guess you can give us a bad review as well. I doubt if you don't like us, you've made it this far in this podcast. Until next time, I'm Chris Bean.
And I'm Chris Kent.